want my kids to learn about American racism. Calling out racism is a part of the work, not all of it. After you get rid of the things you don't like, you need to build the things you do. I first heard the phrase white supremacy in my introductory sociology course at the University of Illinois in 1993. The image of a man wearing white shirt and burning crosses came to mind, and I figured my professor was referring to ancient history. But I remember her continuing, white supremacy is the assumption that cultural patterns associated with white people, from clothes to language to aesthetic preferences to family structure, are normal, and the patterns associated with the people of color are inferior. Wait, didn't that basically describe my entire life? Feeling strange about my Indian grandmother's clothes, about my grandmother's cooking, about the fact that my grandmother even lived with us. The deeper I read, the more I saw the entire world through that lens. I soon couldn't see much else. Racism permitted everything. My principal identity was as a victim of racism. My singular purpose was to call racism out, beat it down, and give it a violent death in front of a crowd. I lost sight of many things, like how fortunate I was to be a middle-class college student, spending my days reading, and the role I had in building something better. I was in a conspiracy against my own agency. I sense a similar tendency in the way race and racism are taught in some schools today. Calling out racism is a part of the work, not all of it. After you get rid of the things you don't like, you need to build the things you do. My kids have learned about privilege and oppression much earlier than I did. They were using these words in everyday conversation by the time they were 10 years old. They didn't learn this from me, or my kids have experienced their fair share of anti-Muslim tones, which these days are just as much about racial bigotry as religious bias. We work with the school so that it is better equipped to deal with the problem of prejudice, and then I remind my kids what a privilege it is to be Muslim. I want them to derive their identity from loving Islam, not hating Islamophobia.